part, this is a science film. In part, this is a proposal from me to you for dramatically changing the world. Mostly, this is all extremely interesting. It explains truly life-changing breakthroughs in physics, and a special topic that deals with water, droughts, famine, and the planet's environment. Altogether, this film covers three main topics: the solution to the question, what is time? The Grand Unification of Physics, and the solution to fusion energy. In my opinion, directly and indirectly, this new physics is going to dramatically change your life. One very interesting, very specific benefit of this new physics is it will enable us to collect massive amounts of fresh water in hot deserts. Obviously, a benefit like that would greatly help to eliminate droughts and famines. In essence, this new physics is very green. The Sahara region is huge. The Sahara covers roughly 3.6 million square miles. In my opinion, we should green about 90% of the Sahara. However, there are hundreds of unique desert areas that are beautiful, special, and unique, locations that should be saved as they are now. In my opinion, we should save about 10% of the Sahara for national parks that protect special desert creatures and these special desert locations. The locations for fusion-powered DOAGs need to be chosen carefully. Because they'll provide water and electricity, towns will develop close to them. In some cases, desert basins will fill with water. We do not want to lure the unsuspecting local people to build their new towns at the bottoms of basins that will eventually refill with water. Therefore, the locations for DOAGs must have elevations that are higher than future water levels. For example, as I mentioned earlier, in the Lake Chad Basin, that level would be about 325 meters above sea level. As the Sahara is transformed, it will need new towns and new roads. Obviously, these towns and roads will require some land. For now, I don't think it's useful to get too analytical, so for now, let us just ignore this detail and look at the big picture. In regard to transforming the Sahara from a predominantly brown region to a green region, in my opinion, we should shoot for an overall goal of 50% agriculture, 30% protected savanna, 10% protected desert, and 10% protected rainforest. Imagine that. Imagine Africa having 1.8 million square miles of new, fertile farmland. Imagine Africa having over 1 million square miles of new, protected savanna. Imagine Africa still having 360,000 square miles of protected desert. Not in one big chunk, but as many smaller national parks. Instead of being places for people to avoid, like their lives depended on it, these places would become new tourist destinations that people will want to visit. Imagine Africa once again having 360,000 square miles of new protected rainforest. In comparison, that is roughly 60% larger than the island of Madagascar. The entire island of Madagascar is only 227,000 square miles. Imagine Africa having 1.8 million square miles of new farmland, and how that will help feed the world. The mega famines of Africa would be gone. And we're not just talking about famines for people. These elephants have found water, but look at this image carefully. Notice how the drought has killed the trees in the background. The massive African droughts are also killing Africa's great animals. Imagine changing that with new, lush, green lands. Imagine how the new plants, the new savannas, and the new rainforests will help all of the great animals of Africa. This will help ensure that endangered African animals can survive. Imagine eliminating hundreds of massive dust storms that sweep across the Sahara every year. Imagine how those new plants will filter pollution from Earth's atmosphere. Imagine how much carbon will be removed from the atmosphere to grow the new plants. Imagine how much oxygen these new plants will add to the atmosphere. Of course, that only describes Africa. Imagine transformations like this taking place in hot deserts all over the world. In India, in the Arabian Peninsula, in Mexico, in China, in Australia. This is my vision. Redefine time, unify physics, revolutionize astronomy, build commercial fusion power plants, make massive amounts of energy, build fusion-powered desert oasification, atmospheric water generators. We will transfer the water from the atmospheric reservoir that floats over the hot deserts of the world into other water reservoirs, both the man-made water reservoirs and nature's other reservoirs, the lakes, the rivers, the plants, the water in the air immediately around the plants, and the water reservoir that resides in a healthy topsoil. We will reduce our dependence on ancient aquifers. We will help nature grow massive amounts of new plant life. We will grow more plants, more crops, more food. We will terraform vast expanses of desert sands, transforming the land into areas where animals can survive and thrive. We will help millions of people avoid the tragedy of droughts and famines. Economies will flourish. Now the world's population can safely grow without harming Earth. Now we can move into space. All of this can now take place because now we understand time. In order to trigger this transformation, all we need to do is to understand time. All we need is for enough people to understand time and agree on the speed of light definition of time. Understanding time is the key that unlocks dramatic improvements for our world. Will there be drawbacks? Yes. I see a big one coming for our New Year's Eve traditions. Let me explain. How we will celebrate the new year will be different. We will not define time to sweep over the planet at the rate at which the sun appears across the sky. It will not take 24 hours for the new year or any day to sweep across the planet. Instead, we will define time to sweep over the planet at the speed of light. Light can sweep over Earth in less than half a second. In the future, after the speed of light definition of time is adopted, the entire planet will celebrate the new year at the same time. Talk about a party. What is the drawback? Well, depending on your location, the new year will happen at different hours of the day. Imagine that. Imagine how that would affect you. In the United States, depending on the time zone, the new year might happen at times like 5, 6, 7, or 8 p.m. At each location, this will happen every year. The start of the new year will happen for your location every year at some odd time. Most likely, for the rest of your life, it will never happen for you at midnight. Let the complaining begin. People love traditions. Worldwide, the tradition of counting down to the new year at midnight is a huge tradition. Personally, I have always enjoyed it. I make a fancy New Year's Eve meal. We do the countdown, we do the fireworks. I'm certain traditions like these will continue. When it comes to New Year's Eve, we will still have our local parties at our local midnight. We'll still have our fireworks. We'll still have a local time based upon the sun's position in the sky. This local time will be almost exactly what everyone is familiar with. Noon will still happen when the sun is overhead. We'll still have time zones. However, there will be a new legal definition of time. We will have a new logical, scientific definition of time. From a physics point of view, it simply no longer makes sense for time to sweep across the planet at the rate the sun crosses the sky. The only logical choice is the speed of light. In essence, there would only be one official date and time for the entire planet. I look at it like this. Why should you live your life without understanding what time is? The key thing is legally and scientifically, we will measure time as we should. In my vision, we now have a new understanding of physics. Physics is unified. This is a significant benefit simply for the satisfaction of understanding nature at this new, more fundamental level. Why should you live your life without understanding how physics is unified? Astronomy is going to change dramatically. This is not going to be some kind of slowly evolving series of minor changes in astronomy. It's going to be dramatic. Will this be a drawback? Yes and no. A lot of schools are going to have to spend a lot of money to get new astronomy textbooks. Then there will come the era of the giant fusion-powered spaceships. I hope to live to see spaceships the size of aircraft carriers lifting off from the ground and traveling into space using a propulsive form of these new fusion power plants. Mankind's ability to harness fusion energy is going to empower a new generation of great explorers. Fusion will enable us to explore space. We will sail the oceans of our solar system and of our Milky Way galaxy. We will travel to our local stars to explore distant worlds. Soon, some people will live their entire lives in spaceships, or on distant planets, or on distant moons. Now, our migration into space can really begin. Let me talk a couple more minutes about politics and regulation. Fusion energy will be safe, clean, and cheap. Fusion power plants will give us a much cleaner world. However, political leadership is needed. In my opinion, any president of the United States could easily put fusion at the forefront of a smart, new, far-reaching national energy plan. All it would take is one good speech, much like Kennedy's Man on the Moon speech.